Section 56 of the Endeavour Journal of Sir Joseph Banks. Journal from 25 August 1768 to 12 July 1771 by Joseph Banks. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Gail Timmerman Vaughan. Section 56. January 1771. 1771 January 1. Worked all night and today likewise. At night anchored under a high island called in the drafts Krakatoa, and by the Indians Pulo Rakata. I had been unaccountably troubled with mosquitoes ever since we left Batavia, and still imagined that they increased instead of decreasing, although my opinion was universally thought improbable. Today, however, the mystery was discovered, for on getting up water today, Dr. Solander, who happened to stand near the scuttle cask, observed an infinite number of them in their water state in it, who, as soon as the sun had a little effect upon the water, began to come out in real effective mosquitoes, incredibly fast. 1771 January 2. This morn when we rose we saw that there were many houses and much cultivation upon Krakatoa, so that probably a ship might meet with refreshments, who chose to touch here in preference to Prince's Island. The wind was so foul and balked us so often that after having sailed the whole day, we were glad at night to come back again to our old berth under Krakatoa. 1771 January 3. Though we had again got under way in the night, yet this morn we had gained but little, nor did we much more all day. At night, however, a breeze sprung up at southeast, and we sailed on cheerily. 1771 January 4. Soon after dinner time today, we anchored under Prince's Island and went ashore. The people who met us carried us immediately to a man whom they told us was their king, with whom, after a few compliments, we proceeded to business, that was, to settle the price of turtle, in which we did not well agree. This, however, did not at all discourage us, as we doubted not but that in the morn we should have them at our own price. So we walked a little way along shore, and the Indians dispersed. One canoe, however, remained, and just as we went off sold us 3 turtle on a promise that we should not tell the king. 1771 January 5. Ashore today, trading. The Indians dropped their demands very slowly, but were very civil. Towards noon, however, they came down to the offered price, so that before night we had bought up a large quantity of turtle. In the evening I went to pay my respects to His Majesty the King, who I found at his house in the middle of a rice field cooking his own supper. He received me, however, very politely. 1771 January 6. Many people were down at the trading place with fowls, fish, monkeys, small deer, etc., etc., but few or no turtle. They said that we had bought them all the day before. 1771 January 8. In the morn the ship, which had in the night been driven something nearer the shore, was so near being ashore that the foot of the rudder touched several times, and indeed gave the first intimation of our danger, but by the alertness of the officers she was hove into deep water in a very short time. The day was rainy throughout, and very few Indians came to the watering place, so that nothing was bought but a few fish and fowls. 1771 January 9. Fine weather today, and rather more trade than usual. Early in the morn 8 guns were heard within Pepper Point, but no ship had been seen by either us or the islanders, so we could not even guess the occasion of them. 1771 January 10. Little trade. The people brought down a deer of a kind weighing about 40 pounds. Our stock of turtle was now considerably increased, some few having been bought every day, though the joint number did not equal what had been bought the first day. 1771 January 11. My servant Sander, who I had hired at Batavia, having found out that these people had a town somewhere along the shore to the westward, and not very far off, I resolved to visit it. But knowing that the inhabitants were not at all desirous of our company, kept my intentions secret from them. In the morn I set out, accompanied by our second lieutenant, and went along shore, telling all whom I met that I was in search of plants, which indeed was also the case. In about 2 hours we arrived at a place where were about 4 or 5 houses. Here we met an old man, and ventured to ask him questions about the town. He said it was very distant, but we, not much relying on his information, proceeded on our way, as did he and our company, attempting, however, several times to lead us out of the pathway which we were now in. We remained firm to our purpose, and soon got sight of our desired object. The old man then turned our friend, and accompanied us to the houses, I suppose near 400 in number, divided into the old and new town, between which was a brackish river. In the old town we met with several old acquaintances, one of whom, at the rate of 2d a head, undertook to transport us over the river, which he did in 2 very small canoes, which we prevented from oversetting by laying them alongside each other and holding them together. In this manner we safely went through our navigation, and arrived at the new town, where the king's and all the nobility's houses were, which the inhabitants very freely showed to us. The most of them were shut up, the people in general at this time of year living in their rice fields to defend the crops from monkeys, birds, etc. When our curiosity was satisfied, we hired a large sailing boat, for which we gave 2 rupees 4s, which carried us home time enough to dine upon the deer we had bought the day before, which proved very good and savoury meat. In the evening, when we went ashore, we were acquainted that an axe had been stole from one of our people. This, as the first theft, we thought it not proper to pass over, so immediate application was made to the king, who after some time promised that it should be returned in the morn. 1771, January 12. The hatchet was brought down according to promise. The thief, they said, afraid of conviction, had in the night conveyed it into the house of the man who brought it. Trade as usual, 200 or 300 weight of turtle in a day, with fowls, etc. Myself was this day seized with a return of my Batavia fever, which I attributed to being much exposed to a burning sun in trading with the natives. 1771, January 13. It was resolved to sail to-morrow, which the natives had been informed of yesterday, so they brought down rather more turtle than usual. My fever returned, but I resolved not to attempt to cure it till in the main ocean I should meet with a better air than this uncleared island could possibly have. In the eve after my fit I went ashore to the king, to whom time after time I had made small presents, altogether not of 5 shillings value, carrying 2 quires of paper, which, as he had done everything else, he most thankfully received. We had much conversation, the purport of which was his asking why the English ships did not touch here as they used to do. I told him that as they had not on the island turtle enough to supply 1 ship, they could not expect many, but advised him to breed cattle, sheep, and buffaloes, which advice, however, he did not seem much to approve. See account of Batavia. 1771, January 14. Our intention of sailing this morn was delayed by want of wind, it being calm till 11 o'clock, when a gentle breeze sprang up which was favourable. The morning, however, was not thrown away, for the Indians, seeing us not gone, brought fish and some turtle, which were bought. Our breeze, though favourable, was however so slack that by night we had got no farther than abreast of the town, where we anchored. 1771, January 15. Weighed again, and stood out to sea with a breeze so gentle that at night we were still in sight of land. 1771, January 16. This morn we waked in the open ocean, nothing in sight but sea and sky. The winds, though fair, continued, yet so gentle that we hardly knew whether we went on or stood still. At night a booby made us a visit and slept his last sleep in the stomachs of some of our men, not induced quite to forsake the old trade of booby eating, even by the present abundance of victuals. 1771, January 17. Calms and light breezes still detained us till eve, when a pleasant breeze sprung up, and gave us hopes of soon gaining the trade wind, which we impatiently longed for, especially myself, who had my fever every day. Nor was I the only sick man. Many began to complain of purgings. Some tropic birds and gannets, Pelecanus risque, were seen. 1771, January 18. In the morn rain with light breezes. Several man-of-war birds and some shearwaters were about the ship. 1771, January 19. Light breezes all day. A ship in sight, but not too far off to distinguish her colours. 1771, January 20. Weather as usual. 2 ships in sight who showed us Dutch colours, and then sailed ahead of us, letting us know that sure as our ship might be, she was too slow to outsail even a Dutchman. Several tropic birds were seen. In the eve the wind came foul. Myself, who had began with the bark yesterday, missed my fever today. The people, however, in general grew worse, and many had now the dysentery, or bloody flux. 1771, January 21. The wind remained as it was, but one of the Dutchmen had so far outsailed us as to be entirely out of sight. The other, however, was not so much ahead, but that we sometimes flattered ourselves with thinking that we could sail as fast as her. Some few gannets and porpoises were about the ship. 1771, January 22. Our friend, the slow Dutchman, was this morn out of sight, the wind still foul. Almost all the ship's company were now ill with either fluxes or severe purgings. Myself far from well, Mr. Sporing very ill, and Mr. Parkinson very little better. His complaint was a slow fever. 1771, January 23. Myself was too ill today to do anything. One of our people died of the flux in the evening. 1771, January 24. My distemper this day turned out to be a flux attended, as that disease always is, with excruciating pains in my bowels, on which I took to my bed. In the eve, Mr. Sporing died. 1771, January 25. One more of the people died today. Myself endured the pains of the damned almost. At night they became fixed in one point in my bowels, on which the surgeon of the ship thought proper to order me the hot bath, into which I went 4 times at the intervals of 2 hours, and felt great relief. 1771, January 26. Though better than yesterday, my pains were still almost intolerable. In the evening Mr. Parkinson died, and one of the ship's crew. 1771, January 28. Self something easier, but still in great pain. This day Mr. Green, our astronomer, and 2 of the people died, all of the same complaint as I laboured under. No very encouraging circumstance. 1771, January 29. Self still bad. 3 more of the people died this day. 1771, January 30. For the first time I found myself better and slept some time, which my continual pains had never suffered me to do before, notwithstanding the opiates which were constantly administered. 1 person only died today, but so weak were the people in general that officers and men included, not more than 8 or 9, could keep the deck, so that 4 in a watch was all they had. 1771, January 31. This day I got out of my bed in good spirits and free from pain, but very weak. My recovery has been as rapid as my disease was violent, but to what cause to attribute either the one or the other, we were all equally at a loss. The wind, which came to east and southeast yesterday, blew today in the same direction, so we had little reason to doubt its being the true trade, a circumstance which raised the spirits of even those who were the most afflicted with the tormenting disease, which now raged with its greatest violence. End of section 56. January 1771.